Hello, welcome to the Introduction to PHP Programming course. Thank you for choosing this course. Welcome, and we hope you enjoy the course. So what are we going to do in the course? Well, we're going to learn about PHP, obviously. This is the overarching objective of the course. We're going to get you to a point where you will be a PHP developer. That is the goal. That is the objective of the course. And these are the topics that we're going to cover in the course to get you there. Now, PHP originally was created way back when in 1995 by a gentleman named Rasmus Lerdorf. And when he created the language, he wrote it for maintaining his personal web page, his home page, when the internet was just born in 1995. And since then, the language has morphed and grown and evolved and has become, if not the most popular language, certainly one of the most popular languages supporting dynamic, interactive website construction. But PHP, let's remember, is a server-side language. It is not a language for directly developing front ends. The code that we write in PHP is executed on the server that delivers the web pages to the client browser. And PHP is part of what's commonly referred to as the LAMP stack. This is a very popular collection of technologies for internet development that includes Linux, Apache web server, MySQL for the database backend, and PHP for the programming language on the server side. And with PHP, we can do all sorts of things because we have on the server side access to all of the information that we might possibly need to interact dynamically with a user, to build web pages that provide information that we're storing about a user or about our products or about our company. On our database, on our server side, we have access, again, to everything that we might need to create these compelling websites. So if you're not familiar with, again, how the internet works and how the browsers work to display information to a user, if we have a standard static website, as is depicted with the red arrows in this diagram, we have a web server that returns when requested by the client, the browser, somebody sitting in a coffee shop somewhere with a pad or a laptop, requests a web page. That request goes to the web server, and the web server pulls that web page from its directory structure. The web page is completely static. All of the information that's going to be displayed to the user, to the requester, is included on the web page, the HTML page. And that web page, that file, that HTML file, is then returned to the user and displayed by the browser. So we don't have a chance in this scenario to interact with the information that we're passing back to the user because it's all already included on the file, on the HTML file that's on the server. In contrast to that, with PHP-enabled web pages, when a user requests an HTML file, a website file, from our server then reads or interprets the PHP code that's embedded within our HTML files, does something. It may request data from a file on the server. It may request data from a database. It may dynamically create the HTML that is then passed back to the client browser for display on their computer. So again, the differences here are that with PHP-enabled websites, we are able to dynamically create content for the user in real time as the user is making the requests from our website versus static HTML presentation, which does not allow us to create any kind of dynamic content. Well, like any programming language, PHP has certain rules for how we write code that can be interpreted by the PHP preprocessor on our server. Those rules, and any rules for a programming language, are referred to as the syntax of the programming language. And PHP didn't reinvent the wheel. I think that the language was very well constructed because it inherited many of the features of other very popular programming languages like C++ and C and Java and so on. And like those languages, one of the most important characteristics of the PHP language is how it ends or terminates a statement. And just like C++ and C and Java and the others, when we want to tell the PHP preprocessor that this is the end of a statement, we must end that statement with a semicolon. And as a beginner, you should expect that this is probably going to be the most common error that you're going to encounter while you're writing PHP code, is remembering to put that semicolon at the end of a statement. PHP preprocessor is pretty forgiving about providing decent error messages to point you to that forgotten semicolon. Well, like other programming languages, PHP has a set of special words. In the syntax of the language, we have these key words, these special words that have a meaning to the language. They have some kind of defined behavior the language expects from when we use these keywords. This is the list of the keywords, and as we go through the course, we're going to visit pretty much all of them. So don't be intimidated by the list. It's actually a small list by programming language standards of keywords. Again, we will cover most of these through the course so that you'll naturally become familiar with them. So the PHP language, again, is a way to embed dynamic content or interactive content within an HTML page so that the user gets a more dynamic experience from a website. Well, because the PHP code is embedded within HTML code, we need a way to identify the PHP code for our web server, for the PHP preprocessor on the web server, to recognize the PHP code and execute it and provide the content to the user's web browser in the form of an HTML page, because in the end, the user browser really only understands HTML. So the embedded PHP is never seen by the user. It's converted by our PHP preprocessor, and when it's passed to the user's computer and displayed on the browser, the only thing the user sees is HTML. And this is quite a contrast to some of the other scripting languages that provide dynamic content in websites, because, for example, JavaScript is actually embedded within the HTML and therefore can be seen by the user in the HTML source code on the browser side, on their side of the transaction. So again, we need this PHP tag to embed our code within the HTML, and that PHP tag is as it's seen here. It's a less than sign, question mark, PHP to identify that it's PHP code scripting, and then to end that tag, it's a question mark greater than sign. The short form, and there is a short form, eliminates the PHP letters. This is not considered best practice because some of the preprocessors may not recognize the short form, so it may limit portability of the code. So we try not to use the short form. It's 3 keystrokes, so just include the PHP within the beginning tag. So not to spend too much time talking and not getting into what we're all here for, and that is learning PHP, we're going to start with a very simple program, and this is the Hello World program. And Hello World is the quintessential I'm learning a new language kind of a program. Way back prior to even the C programming language, the myth is that Kernighan used a sample program with the B programming language, again, the predecessor to C. And that simple program to demonstrate the B programming language was to print Hello World. And so ever since then, anyone that's learning a new language, anyone that's teaching a new language, generally starts out demonstrating basic syntax of the language with the Hello World program. So here it is in PHP. Again, this would be embedded within an HTML document. So within an HTML document body tag, we have this PHP code snippet, this piece of script. And you'll notice again the beginning tag that identifies for the preprocessor that this is PHP code, that this is the beginning of a PHP code section. Then we say echo hello world. And all this is doing, the echo command just sends that text, that string, into the HTML document. It just echoes it. It prints it out. And then we have the end tag. And notice again that we have the semicolon at the end of the echo statement. This marks the end of the statement and is absolutely required.